The most radical American political ticket in history. The ticket of terror. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, chosen by the liberal hierarchy. Kamala had nothing to do with it, I can promise you that. The liberal hierarchy inserts him as they inserted her in the dead of night. Last night, they had a vote. Kamala gets all of the delegates. Not one person within that party, not a member of the public, was given the chance to vote for Kamala Harris. Inserted in the middle of the night. Then this morning, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who let that state burn, quite literally, during the summer of 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the most radical left-wing ticket we have ever seen in America politics, and it represents an anti-America agenda. The right side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey, everybody. My name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout-out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to the Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain. Doug Billings with you, the right side upon you. All right, listen. Before we go any further, a lot to talk about with regards to this ticket of terror. Before we do so, I want to remind you to please head over to DougBillings.us. At some point today, please head over there and click on the donate. Subscribe. Set up a monthly recurring donation, please, so that we can continue to bring you the truth and the analysis that you do not receive from the legacy media. It's how I keep this show going. Your kind participation over there, prayerful consideration of whatever you can afford. I never charge you for this program. We do ask for donations, monthly recurring donations at DougBillings.us. Please head over there. And if you're watching on Twitter, thank you very much, or on X, I should say. Thank you, Elon, for what you're doing over there to further free up free speech. Subscribe, follow over on X. Same thing on YouTube if you're watching over there. Facebook, all of them, Rumble. And a special thanks, as always, to the good folks at worldviewtube.com and Spreely TV. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get to Tim Walz in a minute, but it's worth noting today who the liberal radical hierarchy did not pick as Kamala's running mate. Now, you must know, ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris had little to nothing to do with the selection of Tim Walz, just as Kamala Harris had little to nothing to do with her own selection into and her insertion of the presumptive nominee for this commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. The person they did not choose, I find interesting and telling, and it speaks volumes about what the new commu-socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, stands for. They did not choose Josh Shapiro, a Jew. By not choosing him, I'm putting it to you as this. They gave the nod to the radical Muslim community within America and around the world. She gave the nod to anti-Semitism. They gave the nod to the anti-Israel sentiment that is sweeping through the planet. Wrongly so, by the way, and it makes no mistakes about it. This was not accidental. It was purposely thought out, and it was planned. This choice does not belong to Kamala Harris alone, even in a small way. This choice was made by the radical liberal hierarchy, the elites within their party. The choice of Tim Walz had nothing to do with the radical liberal people within that party. In the middle of the night, last night, the radical liberal hierarchy initiated their Skype calls, their Zoom calls, their conference calls, and everybody logged in, right? All of the hierarchy, all of the elite members of their party, all logging in to these calls to vote for Kamala Harris in the secret of night to give her the official, quote unquote, official Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat, nomination to the presidency for their party. And so by doing that, I'm telling you this, the transformation of the Democratic Party is now complete. They have transformed that party into the most radical anti-American party in American history. They've clearly set its policies, its platform, and its politics on an anti-American agenda, and the pillars by which they represent are not at all part of what the founding fathers intended, have nothing to do with the divine providence of God as the founders intended. Zero, zilch, nada. It is an anti-American ticket. I call it the ticket of terror. And I'll get to the reasons why behind that, but I bet most of you can surmise already that both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz represent terrorism within America. I'll explain in a moment, but the evidence of the obvious is sufficient that I can claim this. It is the truth. It is not even an opinion. So let's take a trip together back in time to the summer of 2021. This was when radical leaders in cities throughout our republic, cities that were run, led, and managed by members of this Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. These leaders throughout America, they encouraged, either by their active voice of encouragement or by their silence and refusal to condemn it, they encouraged riots, looting, rape, murder, arson, and anarchy. And what you're watching now on the screen is Minnesota, Minneapolis to be precise. The epicenter of all of that chaos was right there in the state in which Tim Walz is the governor. Chaos, ladies and gentlemen, purposeful chaos. And because he did not do anything to squelch it, he is complicit in allowing it to happen. Businesses and homes burned, people murdered, raped, arson, again, anarchy. Chaos like this, ladies and gentlemen, in many ways, it's like a demon being unleashed upon our country. Chaos, I would put it to you, chaos is the patron demon of the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. Most of us have and heard of patron saints. The radical liberals have patron demons. And this is evidence of it. Look at the destruction. This in many ways represents more than a city that was set on fire and burned to the ground. This imagery represents what the Democrat, Communist, Socialist, Radical Liberal Party does to human lives. It burns, destroys, and demolishes them, all under the pretense that we're going to take care of you. This is representative of the ticket of terror that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz represent. Kamala Harris, they're a perfect couple. Not only does Tim Walz allow the violence, but Kamala Harris sets up funding for all of the anarchists to get out of jail, to bail them out. You all remember this. It happened in real time. The marching orders of the radical liberal hierarchy party have been consistent, and they have escalated. They have escalated their demands of purposeful chaos ever since the time of Barack Obama, and it has gotten nothing but worse ever since. You remember these images. You remember what they stand for. Tim Walz did nothing as the governor of Minnesota, and by doing nothing, he did everything to encourage the violence and the destruction that took place in that state. He's not the only one. The states of Oregon, Washington State, Oregon, California, they all, and I could go on, they have all leadership that is representative by this radical liberal wing of people who do not like America. They want to fundamentally transform it away from God and the founding fathers, and chaos is how they do it. To not see this is to be blind in partisanship or to be vastly possessed by intellectual immaturity. During COVID, cities and states that are run, led, and managed by members of this communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, shut down and wrecked our economy. They let the domestic terror groups, Black Lives Matter and Antifa, have full reign on their streets, burning, looting, robbing, pillaging. Chaos and terror were unleashed upon the cities and states who are run, led, and managed by this communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And in Minnesota, the governor's mansion, within that mansion, sat an elderly white radical who, by virtue of his silence about all of the anarchy surrounding him in his state and his refusal to act to stop it, gave the mob of anarchists who were burning that state quite literally to the ground. He gave them everything they wanted. In fact, by his silence, he gave them his blessing. Tim Walz. It is unbelievable. Actually, it does so much more for the radical left's defeat than it does for their success. They have proven that by this choice, they have doubled down on their desire to move the dial further to the left in this country. And as I said to you last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris represent the number one goal of the radical liberal party. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this number one goal that they have in mind is not the presidency. Now, don't get me wrong, they'll take it. If they can get the presidency, oh, of course, that's a bonus. But their number one goal is to move the political needle in this country further to the left. That's what they're after. That is the fundamental transformation away from God and the founding fathers that Barack Obama spoke about when he said America needs to be fundamentally transformed. And now here they are. Barack Obama, when we look back, was subtle in his approach. Now it's full force out in the open. It's as if they're in kamikaze mode, flying their ships of anti-American rhetoric, policies, platform, and politics right into the deck of American patriotism, of the American foundation of God and the founders. They don't care anymore. Full-on kamikaze mode. Full-on transformation of America away from everything that was good and righteous with regards to its foundation. One of the new trends within this radical left communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is to commandeer those people who offered this country military service. They commandeer this by claiming the woke and radical military members who have served in such a fashion. Tim Walz represents a generation of woke men and women who have infiltrated our military in an attempt to change it, to transform it into a woke and wussified group of liberal snowflakes. Remember General Mark Milley? He was chiefs of staff under President Trump. At every turn, he was one of these woke military leaders in the upper echelons and hierarchy of American military. Mark Milley. At every turn and seemingly at every opportunity, General Milley attempted to thwart, to discredit, and disobey his commander-in-chief, Donald Trump. It's an earmark of what the radical liberal woke mindset is, to create chaos whenever possible. And Mark Milley represents just a small demographic within our military. Thank goodness that the majority of the men and women in uniform in this country are still determined patriots who are not woke, but who do believe, in fact, in the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers and the Constitution they set forth. But you look at what we've experienced these last 3.5 years, this accelerated kamikaze mode attack on our republic. Kamala Harris is the only person around Administrator Biden in those moments. Biden was already cognitively impaired. Kamala claims that she's the last person in the room whenever they met about policy, about the recent debacle that was our prisoner exchange with Putin. Now, we're grateful that that Paul Welland and Evan Gorshevitz are back. Where Evan and Paul are back home, we're all happy about that. But what we gave back to Russia, assassins, spies, and cyber attack masterminds, didn't have to happen that way. The messages, of course, one of the woke liberal messages is that, hey, go ahead and kidnap us. Kidnap America. We'll give you whatever you want in return. So these woke policies are exactly why Americans are more in danger and at risk than ever before. Kamala Harris has made no decisions about anything with regards to what we've seen by herself. If we think that the radical left hierarchy is going to allow Kamala Harris, are you kidding me, to make decisions on her own? She's been given everything from the hierarchy within that party, every decision that we're seeing play out, including Tim Walz, where they could have gone to the middle, where they could have gone to support Jewish people in America. They could have done all of that. They could have picked someone. They are moving the dial. That is their number one goal. Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris have done nothing to secure these kinds of decisions. It's all being managed behind the scenes by Barack Obama, Susan Rice, and a few other people. The hierarchy and then the elites. It's produced nothing but a cascade of purposeful chaos upon us. It's shocking that the man who is governor of Minnesota and allowed the violence and the anarchy to continue in that state is now her running mate. But it should be no surprise. It is shocking, but it should be no surprise. To move the needle further to the left, it's their number one goal. They'll take the presidency, of course, as I said, but that's not it. They want to move the needle. They want to move the society, the culture, the mindset, the dialogue, the discussion further to the left. And with this team, they attempt to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, DougsGold.com, ladies and gentlemen. In the era of Bidenomics, you need to make sure that you move and take care of the money that you've worked your life for. Go to DougsGold.com and get information about how you can do just that. Sequester away, move, and diversify your portfolio for your retirement into gold and silver, the biblical standard of money. DougsGold.com, ladies and gentlemen. Please head on over there, get the information, fill out the form, and we, right here, you and I'll be right back right after this break. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that you could change the trajectory of your aging process? Look and feel better, live younger, be more active, less pain when you move around, sleep better, diminish the lines and the wrinkles on your face? Really? This is what I'm telling you. It's possible. You see, low stem cell activity happens when we get older. And it could be causing many of the health problems that some people have in the world today. Because as we get older, we have less stem cell activity, which means we age faster and we heal slower. The secret is a clinically proven and patented phototherapy non-transdermal patch, whose technology is the result of over 90 clinical studies and over 20 years of research. Your healthier life can begin today, and you can discover true age reversal. Age reversal, ladies and gentlemen. Please go to liveyoungerwithdoug.us. Liveyoungerwithdoug.us, ladies and gentlemen. Get over there today. Or if you'd like, text my name, Doug, to 41372. Doug, text it, 41372. And get over to liveyoungerwithdoug.us. Get younger, feel younger. I'm doing it. I'm wearing this patch. I feel great. And so will you. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
I want to tell you about the good people over at EMP Shield, electromagnetic pulse. Electromagnetic pulse, ladies and gentlemen. It can fry your home electrical system or your vehicle's electrical system. But if you attach one of these, now this is for your breaker box at home. There's a smaller version that goes on your battery of your car, your vehicle, that will prevent it from being fried in the event of an electromagnetic pulse. Because as you know, thanks to Administrator Biden, many people coming across the border now who don't exactly have the best of intentions. Protect yourself. EMPshield.com. Get huge discounts over there if you use the promo code Doug.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Right Side with Doug Billings. So we have the ticket of terror in place. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, radical left, the most radical left political ticket in the history of this republic. Makes everything a little bit easier. Now we know the path forward. Now we know what to talk about. We can juxtapose what President Trump and the conservative movement in this country stands for: freedom, no tyranny, the suppression and rejection and elimination of anarchy, against the party who is the enablers of anarchy, riots, looting, and chaos. We talk about chaos as if it's just second nature to us after these last 3.5 years. Everything from the border to the lack of energy independence, to our foreign policy, which has been a nightmare and a debacle, to everything in between, the inflation, cost of living, purposeful chaos. It is not accidental. It's not collateral damage just because a few other decisions didn't go the right way. It's purposeful. It's by design. This is what they want: chaos. Because more people that are afraid tend to depend then on the government to rescue them. And that's part of what they want. They don't want you and I to take care of each other. They don't want us to have the intellectual or physical freedom to make our own decisions. The government must make decisions for us. And so they lure people to their party by enslaving them. See, the Democratic Communist Socialist Party, still at its roots, founded by people who wanted slavery, hasn't changed. They just change the mechanisms by which they enslave people. Free stuff, just as an example. We'll give you all sorts of free stuff: free education, health care. Oh, and by the way, if you're an illegal immigrant, you're going to get all the free stuff you want: free education, housing, clothing, whatever. If you just vote for us, if you just fill out this box of ballots and give it to the guy in the white van over there, we'll give you everything. And so illegal immigrants and American citizens alike become enslaved to the free stuff, to the entitlements. They become dependent upon the government's handouts, and therefore more inclined to keep on voting for these handouts and voting for the conveniences that they represent. It's slavery, folks. The Republican conservative movement in America lifts people up out of that, teaching them how to work, how to get a job, how to become self-sufficient, giving them the tools necessary: lower taxes, more opportunity, businesses built and remaining in America. The whole thing. The radical liberal movement in America will not have that. You must be dependent upon the government. And we have Tim Walz now in the mix, in the picture. He is a baby boomer. He's a woke, aging politician, an old man, the party of youth, right, in vigor. Oh, they chose an old man to be the standard bearer. Trump, granted, 80, pushing 80, right? So he will be the oldest, now that when Biden is out, but he's got his wits, and he's chosen a young, passionate, conservative patriot to be the standard bearer. The radical liberal element, for whatever reason, has chosen an old baby boomer politician to be their VP. It will not work. I'll talk about later in the show how people on the left are absolutely beside themselves with regards to this choice. Remember, no one likes Kamala in the radical left. The enthusiasm that you see, even at the rally going on tonight in Pennsylvania. I was watching just a bit of it. By the way, I saw Josh Shapiro speak. He is good. He's a gifted speaker. Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. Thank goodness they didn't put him in there. We would have had a tougher row to hoe. He's a good speaker. Good. Now, I disagree with everything that he says, obviously, but he's charismatic. The thing going against him, though, in the radical left movement in America today is that he's Jewish. So Kamala didn't choose the radical liberal hierarchy, chose the old white guy from Minnesota to be the vice president. Go figure that. So the woke, I was telling you before the break that one of the new things within this radical left movement is they try to commandeer military service away from our side, because we are the side of the founding fathers. We are the side that aligns with the founding fathers. The radical left does not. You will see flags at their event. You will hear Josh Shapiro tonight was an example in their rally. He was talking about patriotism. The radical left movement has no moral high ground with regards to claiming the word patriotism. That you cannot be a patriot and want to fundamentally transform America. It doesn't make it. It's not possible. That does not make sense. There is no need to fundamentally transform America. What they mean when they say that is they want to fundamentally transform America away from the divine providence of God and from the intent of the founding fathers. But they try to commandeer military service as well. So Tim Walz is a former military guy. He was in the National Guard. He is woke, just as woke in the military. He was also a teacher, a high school teacher. He was woke during his days in education, and he is still woke as a politician. Now, he does not come from a swing state, which is another interesting element in all of this. You would think, because Josh Shapiro does in Pennsylvania. That's a swing state. It's in play for President Trump. Minnesota, where Tim Walz is from, hasn't voted for a Republican president in over 52 years. It is not a swing state. Liberals, mistakenly so, think that Walz will appeal to the swing states. And within the party hierarchy, today, 50 leaders were urging the decision makers within the party to not choose Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. They did not want him. 50 as it stands right now. That number will undoubtedly grow in the days and the weeks ahead. We'll find out who did not. 50 people putting pressure on the hierarchy. Do not choose Josh Shapiro. He's a Jew. We cannot have him. The sentiments of anti-Semitism, anti-Israel are rampant, wide, and thick within that party. The hatred of the Jewish people from among the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, is very real. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It never ceases to amaze me. When I look at people of faith in my own faith tradition, it never ceases to amaze me when I see a fellow Catholic who votes for a liberal, who votes for a communist socialist, who would vote for or support this liberal ticket of terror. And I'm equally surprised when Jewish people say that they're going to vote for this radical communist socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, who would do everything possible to eliminate Israel, and in fact, who openly support Palestine over Israel. How can you support that? How can any person of faith, no matter what that faith is, support this radical liberal agenda and party? Because what's contained in their policies, their platform, their politics is radicalism. No person of faith, no American patriot and follower and believer in the United States Constitution, no believer in the intent of our founding fathers can, in good conscience, support the communist socialist formerly known as Democrat Party. Impossible. So by not choosing Josh Shapiro, they open the doors for President Trump to take Pennsylvania, which is a state, as I said, that is very much in play for President Trump. If he takes Pennsylvania and another battleground state, President Trump is in the White House in January. Pennsylvania. I mean, Biden carried it only by 1% in 2020, and Trump's leading in the polls. Has Kamala Harris gained in the polls? Yes. There's a sugar high out there. There's no denying it, but it's a sugar high. Remember, the enthusiasm that you see is fake and it's demanded. Nothing has changed from the Kamala of 2020. The cackling, the low intellect, the low IQ, the absolute failure at public speaking and debating, all of that is still on the tape. That's why she hasn't given a press conference in 18 days since Administrator Biden stepped down. She is running a basement campaign because she cannot speak intelligently on her own in front of an audience, in front of she can't answer questions in an interview. If she's not with a teleprompter, she flounders. And people on that side, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, they know it. Now, you will see the cascade of enthusiasm, and we all see it. It's everywhere. It's thick, it's fake, and it's cringe. There is no organic passion and support for Kamala Harris in America. It is all demanded from the liberal hierarchy, demanded to the media and to the pundits on social media. You must get out there and show enthusiasm for this. She's all we got. We've got to move the needle farther to the left. So any support or appeal for Tim Walz among members of the United States military comes only from the military woke hierarchy. Thankfully, the line level, God love you, the grunts, God bless you, the heart and the soul, the backbone of our American military. The grunts, the lower level ranking officers outside of the military hierarchy, all are strongly and vastly in favor of President Trump. Harris and Walz are perfectly fitted for one another in the world of radical liberalism. Governor Walz allowed and encouraged, again, can't say this enough, he encouraged and allowed by virtue of what he said and by virtue of what he didn't do. The violence, the riots, the looting, destruction of property, rape, murder, arson, anarchy, all of it right there in Minnesota. The Summer of Love, they called it, 2021. And Kamala Harris, talk about a couple made in hell, right? Not in heaven. You got people like Tim Walz who instigated and allowed the violence either by virtue of what they said or they didn't do, burning entire cities within their states down to the ground. And then you have Kamala Harris setting up funding mechanisms so that the rapists, the murderers, the anarchists, the rioters, the looters could get bailed out of jail. That's what Kamala did. So you've got Tim Walz who lets the violence happen. You got Kamala who gets them out. Perfectly matched in hell, ladies and gentlemen. I'll put it to you. So from an anarchist's point of view, this ticket of terror is just what they ordered. Wow, great. We're going to rain down more chaos upon America. Can you imagine with these two as president and vice president? The radical liberal agenda that they would continue to cast down upon us. We would have no borders. Energy independence is gone. We've got to go green. Energy, marketing, management, manufacturing, plants, jobs, all overseas. NATO and the World Economic Forum, all of those, the New World Order, all controlling what we want to do, freedoms. Have you seen what they're doing in the UK? If you put something on Facebook that they disagree with, you're locked up, literally, in jail. Not Facebook jail, real jail. It's coming our way. This radical trend of liberalism is a disease. It's a disease of the intellect, and it's a disease of the soul and the spirit of what America is supposed to represent. And I mean with every sense of humility. This is not an ego statement about America. There are other great nations in this world and around us that are striving just as we are to meet and find the divine providence of God and to mete out to its people true justice and freedom and liberty. But America is that light. We are this great experiment that has the most powerful example of what we're talking about. And the radical liberal left doesn't believe in that exceptionalism. They don't believe in the intent of the founders. They are fundamentally trying to transform us away from it. So we're going to spend time talking about this over the next few months before this election. And you see the great excitement they have manufactured all. Fake, phony, demanded. There's a rally going on tonight in Pennsylvania, about 7,000 people in the arena. And yes, they're energized. But look, when you have the Crypt Keeper as your former nominee, of course there's going to be a bump in the excitement, in the enthusiasm. They modeled these things, by the way, after the Trump rallies. It's all copycat Trump rally. And they get 7,000 people tonight in Philadelphia. Let's see when they have an outdoor arena, or an outdoor rally, I should say. President Trump draws 70, 80,000. In Pennsylvania, there was one over just at the beginning of the summer, 100,000 people. So let's just see. I'm telling you, the sugar high is going to crash, and they're not going to have the enthusiasm. With this ticket, once the dust settles and people realize, you will only see the most ardent of their radicalized liberal base out there. John and Jane Doe on the streets of America who are not given a choice in Kamala or Tim are not happy. And it's going to be, I'm telling you, next week at their convention, it's going to be interesting to see because there are people within the party who are not happy. It'll be interesting to see. All right, I've gone a bit long, up against a break. Ladies and gentlemen, reminding you, hey, prepping for beef, Bidenomics. What happens if things really go bad? You want to have some beef? You want to have some food on hand? DougsBeef.com. Get this. It's the great tasting. It's freeze-dried, shelf life of 25 years. If you want to really prep and be prepared, head over to DougsBeef.com. Look that website up. There it is right there on the screen. Head on over there. You've got all sorts of things to choose from. I've tried it. I've had it right here at home. It's incredible. Shelf life of 25 years. Be prepared for when things really go bad. If they do, you want to be prepared. DougsBeef.com. A wide variety over there. Ladies and gentlemen, look, you and I are in this together. I appreciate you. Have a nice trip into capitalism right here. I will be back in just a couple of minutes. Stay with me. God bless you. Cheers.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
TWC.health/Brandon. This is one of our sponsors, has been now for a few years. Here it is. You just go there. If you use that URL, folks, you not only save money, but our program gets credit, which helps us keep doing great shows like this for free and pushing them out. TWC.health/Brandon. Look up here at the top of the page where it says Med Kits. Go down there to the one that says Contagion Emergency Kit. Contagion Emergency Kit. That's the one you want, right, Dr. McCullough?
Right. That's going to cover bird flu. Just you start on day one. I think all the animal workers, people in rural areas need to have these. You can't wait around for the pharmacist. If you start early, that comes with telemedicine. We can intensify the antivirals, get other drugs going. Very affordable. Join through Brandon's website. Join as a member because we're working on ways to replace the used drugs. And you have to be a member to get that advantage.
The Right Side with Doug Billings, coming to you from the fruited plains of America.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Listen, I mean this sincerely. Thank you for standing with me shoulder to shoulder as we all try to circumvent this madness that's coming our way, how we navigate back to the divine intent of God, the intent of the Founding Fathers, the divine providence upon which this nation was founded. I appreciate you very much. I would like to remind you that over at DougBillings.us, you can set up a monthly recurring donation to the program. I never charge you to watch this show. So I just ask that you prayerfully consider, what is the truth worth to you? What is this analysis worth to you? You can't get this on the Legacy News. We say things on this program that people in the likes of which Don Bongino and Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, others, they all say it after we say it. We set the tone. We become the show prep for the others, and we are absolutely dependent upon your help. DougBillings.us. Please set up a monthly recurring donation to the program. Just prayerfully think about it is all I ask. I never charge you for the show, but we do need your help to continue to bring it out and get it to you. Share it, please. Whatever platform you're watching this on, whether it's X or worldviewtube.com or Spreely TV or YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, please like and subscribe to the show wherever you're watching it and share the links, please. All right. The ticket of terror, ladies and gentlemen. a match made in hell between the man who would instigate, let, and encourage violence and anarchy and the woman who would bail the anarchists out. It's a ticket of terror, and they are absolutely heck bent, as we say, on destroying and fundamentally transforming America away from the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. I'm going to open up the phone lines, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. Phone lines are open. The queue is there. Please get in line, and we will get to you in just a moment. We appreciate you. We always like to talk about the topic of the day, which is the ticket of terror. I want to remind you, because I don't want this point to be lost, the enthusiasm that you see out there. Some of you may have the tendency to become discouraged because of all of the enthusiasm you see out there. It's everywhere from the radical left. Believe me when I tell you, there is zero organic passion and enthusiasm for this duo on this ticket of terror. The numbers that you're seeing in the polls are only representative between the brain dead Biden and the cackling Kamala. That's the difference that you're seeing in the polls. It is not substantive. It's not meaningful. It's just because they had a candidate who was brain dead, and now they've got a candidate who can cackle. So at least that's a step up to them. So they're excited about that. And they're putting out this excitement through mandates. They have been mandated by their hierarchy to get out there on social media and in the legacy news and act like you're enthused about this. John and Jane Doe, I can tell you, on the streets of America, have no interest in this duo, even though that some of them might have voted for Biden in 2020. John and Jane Doe, normal-thinking, patriotic Americans who might have voted for Biden, are looking around and seeing the chaos that they have purposefully set upon us, and they're saying, this is not what I had in mind. This is not when I voted for Biden, this is not what I had in mind. This is what John and Jane Doe were thinking. And it's the reason why multiple millions of people are coming over to the right side. And for at least this election cycle, if not many more to come, they're voting for Trump. Now, you don't see this in the polls that the left is using because it doesn't suit their needs. They use the polls that are not good with methodology, that are non-scientific, and simply based on emotion. Emotions always change. It's worth noting that several media figures, the celebrity class, and all of that have also expressed concerns about Tim Walz. They are not happy. And I think it's interesting to look at things like the Washington Post. There's a columnist over there. Her name is Megan McArdle, and she wrote this. I'm going to quote her, and this is representative of a lot of liberals in the mainstream media. She says, quote, "My fears about Harris are that she is incredibly bad at public speaking and that she reliably makes bad political decisions. So far, she's done nothing to allay either of those fears. I'm not saying that she can't win, but I wish she gave me more confidence." So that's what you see. That's the truth about how the sentiments of the radical liberal people on the street, if you will, are really feeling. There's another one out there there's this guy, Damon Linker, who is an academic. He's a professor. He's a podcaster. Damian Linker said this, and I'm quoting him now. "Rather than pick the very popular governor of a neck-and-neck must-win purple state," he's talking about Pennsylvania and Josh Shapiro, "Harris chose a dime-a-dozen blue state governor who gives and feels to progressives." That's about what I'd expect to hear from her about a month ago. Nothing has changed. So this professor and podcaster says, "What? Look, people like Tim Walz are a dime a dozen. He's a blue state Democrat, doesn't bring anything to the table. He doesn't bring anything to a battleground state contest. And why didn't we pick Josh Shapiro? He's 10 times more articulate and passionate and charismatic. We got Tim Walz, this old guy, so that's what this guy's noticing." Then there's author Matt Lewis. Again, I'm just going down the list of things that I read today because I think it's indicative of what John and Jane Doe, Democrats on the streets of America, are thinking. He says this, Matt Lewis said, "It wasn't a bad pick for Kamala, but Walz, he's going to do very little to appeal to the anti-Trump conservatives that we're trying to gather in. If you were a never-Trump conservative who was hoping to rationalize somehow a vote for a Democrat this year, form a short-term alliance with that party, It just got harder to do. That's what Lewis wrote. So there is a never Trumper element out there. That's true. And the radical liberal movement tries to court them. Well, it just became almost impossible with the choice of Tim Walz today. So to my point earlier about the rioting, the burning, and the so forth that Tim Walz allowed by virtue of his inaction and his silence on the matter, there's a comedian out there, Tim Young. And Tim Young, funny guy, liberal through and through. But again, he makes this observation, and I'm quoting, "Last time Kamala and Tim Walz teamed up, he let rioters burn Minneapolis to the ground, and she fundraised to bail them out." End quote. It's what I said earlier in the program. That's what they do. Set up the chaos. We'll figure out a solution by ourselves. If there is no chaos, we'll create it. And by the way, then we'll put forth fake avenues to solve the very chaos that we ourselves started so that we look like the hero. And they especially love to do this in an election year. Even Meghan McCain came out today and said, quote, "Trump and Republicans got lucky with the pick of Tim Walz today." So not a love fest over there for this choice. Tim Walz is not the guy that's going to bring moderate, common sense, intellectually mature people to the ticket. This is a ticket of terror, both what these people represent. Ladies and in all seriousness, I am not kidding. What this represents should send chills down your spine. The radical left nature of this ticket, the most radical ticket on the left that we've ever produced in this country. And again, I'm just going to leave this with you before we go to the phone calls. It is not their number one goal to get the presidency. They'll take it. No, don't get me wrong. They'll take it if they get it. But their number one goal is not the presidency. The number one goal of this radical left movement in America, as evident now by the choice of Tim Walz on the ticket with Kamala Harris, is to move the political needle in this country further to the left. That's what they're after primarily. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some time here. I'm going to take some phone calls. Those of you that want to get in line and join the conversation about what we're talking about here today, 901-316-8404, 901-316-8404. Get in line. Phone line's open. Vince from Australia, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Yeah. Good, thanks, Doug. Yourself? Yeah.
Doing well.
Look, I had a lot. There's so much I could comment on, and I wonder what to pick. I might just take from the anti-Semitic angle. Yeah, as you said, it was very interesting about who they did not choose. But I'm not overly surprised. Kamala's proven herself to be, I think, virulently anti-Israel, and she couldn't alienate like a main base of Islamic supporters in Minnesota. But the other point I wanted to make was just with the hypocrisy of the left and just how Marxism mutates. Back in the Bolshevik Revolution, Bolshevism, it seemed to be kind of friendly towards the Jews because there was a disproportionate representation of the Jews, I think brought about by the terrible pogroms in Tsarist Russia. But if you look at now the modern-day cultural neo-Marxism, one group they've abandoned, it seems, is the working class. That was their traditional base, and now because they realise that in a modern-day America or Australia, class isn't a really potent dialectic, but much more potent was one thing race, like in 2020, and now, of course, with the gender wars. So now it seems to me the working class is persona non grata, and now the Jewish, especially after October 7th, they were often trying to go after President Trump, saying he was an anti-Semite. But then suddenly, October 9th, for example, Sydney Opera House, they were suddenly chanting "Gas the Jews." My goodness, if I said "Gas the Jews" before October 7th, you could imagine raving neo-Marxist liberals would have been down my throat over that. But it's how the Marxists just keep changing the dialectic to suit their agenda. Yeah.
Absolutely so. And isn't it amazing? Like I was saying, I'm making a comment earlier in the show about Vince, they are in full I call it kamikaze mode, right? They are flying the ships of their tyranny. They're playing into the deck of America, not just America, mind you, but you in Australia have experienced it. The shouting out, "Gas the Jews." It's unfathomable. You cannot even, people have, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying that's ripping, and it's especially close because of the subject of my book. Anti-Semitism is a huge thing, and I've actually written a huge essay too on it, on the Israel-Hamas war, which actually got featured in the UK freedom outlet called the Expose back in March. Yeah, and just the thing you're saying with how you're troubled, like so many Jews seem to embrace the radical left. Well, remember, there is this nefarious nominal Jew called George Soros. In arguments with many raving anti-Semites, they think he's pro-Zionist, but I know he's not. I've seen the material on his Tides websites. It's all anti-Israel, pro-Hamas, pro-Palestine. Yeah, and he funds, of course, like that group, the Jewish Voice for Peace, and many other radical groups that you see at those protests. But yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Vince, I think you're spot on. I appreciate you very much, always taking the time to give us a call. I appreciate you very much. Look, God bless you, and God bless everybody down there in Australia. You guys are no strangers to tyranny yourselves. You guys, when we were in the throngs of COVID, you guys, didn't you all have the internment camps and the lockdowns, the shutdowns, the forced jab and so forth? You all lived through a great deal of tyranny.
Oh, there was. Well, that camp near Toowoomba, west of Brisbane, unfortunately, I think it had took in the end only 700 people, and now it's been an embarrassment for the socialist Queensland Labor government. It's not being used, and they've wasted God knows how much, on that thing. We weren't as bad as lockdowns at Victoria. Victoria was the one that under the Maoist Premier Dan Andrews. That was shocking. I'm just going to give a story. Yeah, so, no, you're right. I mean, COVID is just something embraced the whole world, this madness. And we just copied the CCP. We took the CCP's word for it that lockdowns work.
Right, absolutely so. Vince, I tell you, always a pleasure to hear from you. Always a good call, good topic, and always appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, the phone line remains open. Vince, you take good care down there. God bless you. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, 901-316-8404 if you want to get in on the conversation, 901-316-8404. And, Vince is right. As I look at this whole situation, this choosing of Tim Walz, you look at this, as I call them, ladies and gentlemen, the Communist Socialist Party. They are not a pro-America party, not at all. They are clearly, evidence of the obvious is sufficient, clearly not in favor of what America stands for. And when you look at what they do and what they don't do, clearly they have given by not choosing. Again, I'm so amazed that they chose this Tim Walz guy, because in not choosing Josh Shapiro or someone else, what they've done is they've given the nod to the growing radical Muslim communities in America, especially in Michigan and Minnesota. And let's not sugarcoat it. It needs to be said. There is a growing amount of radical Muslims within this country, just as there is in Europe, and leading to a lot of problems in Spain and Germany and the UK, just to name a few. France has no sense of itself anymore. Germany's losing its national identity. Spain, the UK, and with the common denominator being illegal immigration and open borders, nations are losing themselves. They're losing their national identity. And so the radical left Communist Socialist Party gives the nod to the radical Muslim community in America, and it is a ticket of terror. And I don't know who else is saying this. I think I'm the only one. But it is the truth, and you know that it is. People with any shred of intellect can see this. They are pro-Palestinian, they are anti-Israel, and they want this country to suffer the same fate as those others that I mentioned. They want America to lose its sense of identity. That's part and parcel of the reason behind the chaos of the open borders. Now, secondarily to that, and since we're in an election year, the purpose of these open borders is also to grant voting rights to the people coming in here. You see, they want them to become part of their new electoral base. I've said that repeatedly, and I'm the only person out there saying it again and again and again. You've got to begin to believe that that's what they're trying to do. dilute the American identity, dilute American exceptionalism, do away with the divine providence of God, the intent of the founding fathers, and then finally to gather in their new electoral base of illegals and to give them the right to vote. They've gone to great lengths, the radical left has, to purposefully cascade down upon us chaos, their patron demon. They encourage domestic terror groups. They allow these liberal terror groups to deliver, for example, pallets of rocks, bricks, and stones to street corners within cities that are run, led, and managed by the radical commie socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party. And they go to work with riots, looting, arson, and anarchy. They go right to work. And we have two of their kingpins on this ticket, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, instigators of violence and anarchy, and how to bail them out. They will do everything they can to continually keep on with purposeful chaos and with this absolute wreckage that they're trying to inflict upon our republic. They represent anti-God platforms and policies and politics. They are anti-founding fathers. They are anti-America. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient, ladies and gentlemen. Just look at what they've done. They're going to encourage violence and anarchy, if so much not by their words, but by their silence. Just watch. They will continue to give the right to vote to these immigrants, these illegal immigrants. They will continue to cripple the United States economy. They are going to be sending manufacturing jobs in partnership overseas to China. We will limit ourselves with economics. We will see land being sold to foreign countries who do not like us. And at this very moment, precisely because of their open border policy, there are people making plans right now to rain down catastrophe upon this country and its people. Making plans at this very moment to attack schools and take hostages. Why not? Kamala Harris was, in her own words, was the architect of the plan with Putin, basically telling the world and the people within it who hate us that you can kidnap Americans and the radical left ticket of terror. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will give you anything you want in return for them. It's a position of weakness, of failure, and it's a position of chaos. And chaos is their patron demon. A lot more to come this week, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be talking about this at great length. It's an unbelievable turn of events. The right side will prevail. Stay in prayer and stay with one another. We walk together shoulder to shoulder, ladies and gentlemen. Support the show over at DougBillings.us, please. DougBillings.us. Again, I just ask you to prayerfully consider heading over there, setting up a monthly recurring donation so that I can continue to meet you right here. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I mean it. We are in this together. We will prevail. God bless you. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.